Last time, we saw the conclusion of what Zamasu was up to. Despite being immortal and having an incredible amount of power, Turles was able to figure out a way to defeat him, using Zamasu's immense power against him. Now that we've arrived at the finale, how will this story wrap up? And where do the three Saiyans go from here? We'll be seeing all that and more in this finale of What If Turles Survived. Next up, we do have the Tournament of Power. The team here will be a little bit different because they don't have the androids, and obviously Turles would be on the team too. But if they recruit the usual people, we're still short 2 members. Goku nearly suggests Frieza, but Turles has his own idea. Why not just ask Goten and Trunks? Yeah, they're not too powerful, but still, they're Saiyans, and at the end of the day, this will be a good experience for them. Besides, what other option do they really have? Of course, Yamcha tries to get on the team, but that's not going to happen here. And they could go with one of the kids and then Yamcha, but those two are kind of a package deal. It's better to have the two of them together fighting alongside each other. Piccolo is a bit bummed because this means he'll have to babysit them during the entire tournament. But as the guy who's basically been training them for the most part, this will be a good experience for them. He just has to make sure they don't go off the rails. We haven't really seen much of Goten and Trunks, but since they never learned fusion, they do fight a lot more individually. Now, they're great fighting alongside each other. The same goes for Ken. But this might make them a better pick for the tournament just because of the fact that they actually know how to fight individually instead of relying on fusion for the most part, instead of having to rely on Gotenks as a crutch. So they're marginally stronger and marginally more experienced because of that. And that gives us the team for the tournament. But those last few members didn't really matter too much because at the end of the day, Universe 7 is going to get a pretty easy win here. The tournament may serve as a great catalyst for Goku to unlock Ultra Instinct, also giving Vegeta another hurdle to surpass because now Turles and Kakarot are ahead of him. If he wants to truly surpass them, he's going to have to try something different. But still, he is strong in his own right, and the three of them basically carry the entire team during the tournament. Jiren would definitely be the toughest foe, but Turles is a perfect matchup for him, not just in terms of power, but in terms of how he thinks. The two of them are just so focused on strength, but they go about it in different ways. Turles has learned this lesson against multiple opponents, and he can see pretty plainly that Jiren's going about it all wrong. Of course, Goku has the same view on it too. It's not really the first time Turles fought an opponent that was so focused on strength that he basically pushed everything else aside. In the end, they would win this fight, and Jiren still leaves fulfilled. His ideals clashing with Turles' ideals, as well as Goku's ideals, that will help him leave a better person. But that's basically the entire tournament. And in all honesty, we're kind of glossing over it here because of the fact that Jiren's really the only big focus here. And following this arc, a few other things might be avoided. For one, without Frieza, there's of course no Broly here either. And there's no real reason for any of the Saiyans to seek him out, nor know that he exists in the first place. This would also affect Granola's story, and without Frieza being revived, the Heaters and Granola don't really need to do what they did in the main story. And that brings us to our final villain. A few years have passed after the tournament. By now, all 3 of the Saiyans are going down their own paths in terms of strength. Turles continues improving his power. Now, he doesn't even need a new form, he's just using what he already has. But the other 2 are reinventing themselves as well. Ever since getting it in the tournament, Goku's wanted to unlock Ultra Instinct, of course, with Vegeta also being set down a different path earlier on. And a lot of this is due to Turles. Turles reminded Vegeta of that same lesson that he taught Turles. Maybe instead of focusing on what he already has, he has to focus on a change in mind and attitude. But Beerus overhears this conversation between the 2, and it gets him thinking. He has an idea of something that might suit Vegeta very well, and make him a more worthy rival. Besides, with him lagging behind the 2 others, Beerus knows a way that might make him jump ahead. So, Goku's been training under Whis, Vegeta's been training under Beerus, although I use the term training very loosely, and Turles for the most part does his own thing, but he more so trains with Whis and spars with both the others. But at some point someone contacts Whis. It's Bulma, with Tights on the line too, as well as someone else, Jaco. This was basically a game of telephone. There's been an issue with the Galactic Patrol, so Jaco wanted to get Turles' help. He's not on the planet, but thankfully he found Tights, who then took Jaco to Bulma, who's now talking to Whis, who's now talking to Turles, who's also talking to the other 2 Saiyans. Someone else steps on the line to explain everything, saying his name's Maris. There was a prison break not too long ago. I find another way to get out of prison, thanks to the help of a lot of other prisoners. He's been spending years planning this. And of course he's been locked away for millions of years, but something recently jump-started this, him hearing about the Tree of Might. Moro always thought that if he escaped, it would be hard to get his magic back. Not even the Dragon Balls could help because they wouldn't be strong enough to break the Grand Supreme Kai's seal. He'd have to get the Super Dragon Balls if anything. But now, he has a new way to obtain power. He and a few prisoners are going to work on this. Although right now Moro's in kind of a tough spot because he's not very strong. Physically he's pretty weak, and in terms of magic, he can't even use that. But he's given the... Of course, Moro's not going to work for them. If anything, he's manipulating them to work for him. But the premise of having someone as strong as Moro on their side, that really does entice them. The prison break was a lot tougher because Moro didn't have any magic, and they basically had to protect him the entire time. But now he has 2 pretty simple objectives, and he only has to accomplish one of them. He either needs to find the Grand Supreme Kai and kill him, or find out how to get a Tree of Might. Which, thanks to a lot of the prisoners in there, isn't too hard because of how much knowledge they have on this type of illicit stuff. He still does want to pursue the Grand Supreme Kai because that seems like the easier method, not knowing that of course he's been absorbed by Buu. Judging by his reaction in Chapter 47, he didn't realize that the Grand Supreme Kai was part of Buu until they actually met. And Buu was never released nor destroyed. The Kais have Buu's egg, and it's pretty under control. Not that any of that met place. So, it looks like that's going to have to be the second objective. First, he's going after the Tree of Might. Now, of course, the Galactic Patrol didn't know any of this, although they weren't too concerned because of how strong Moro was at that point, which wasn't very strong. He was a high priority threat, but they thought maybe they could handle him, and by the time they actually did encounter Moro, it was already far too late. He and his crew had already planted trees of might. Only a handful, but it was enough to give Moro a lot more physical strength, making him too tough for any of the Galactic Patrol to fight. Now at this point, Moro realized that all he needed to do was find the Grand Supreme Kai, but this power, something about it is so intoxicating. Maybe a few more fruits wouldn't hurt. With him gaining more strength, it became harder and harder for the patrol to get to him. And even if they did get to him in time, he was far too strong of an opponent, even without magic. Now, eating all these fruits in rapid succession, it was pretty risky for him, but there was a high reward alongside it. At some point, not only did he regain a bunch of physical power, but something snapped inside of him. The Tree of Might not only affected his physical strength, but his latent magical abilities too. And with the combination of these two bubbling up inside was overflowing. All that magic that was held back, now empowered by the Tree of Might as well. Combined with his newfound physical strength, this is more than Moro could have ever imagined. Of course, a lot of the crew did want to get some of the tree with his magic and all. And now, with such a strong ally like this, they're unstoppable. And any who did try to betray him, well, they were dealt with. Those who stayed loyal to Moro the entire time, they get everything they ever wanted, all the spoils of conquering planets and such. So, while they could have gotten a lot of strength for themselves, in the end, this was the wisest move for them. And that's why the Galactic Patrol is contacting everybody. Moro is far too strong of an opponent, so they're grasping at straws here, but they do need some sort of help. And that's where Goku, Vegeta, and Turles come in. Turles has no objections, especially because he doesn't want to go back on their bounty list again. He doubts he will in the first place, but just to be on the safe side. And regardless, all three of them would be up for it because it sounds like a fun fight. Besides, hearing about how his magic works, Turles thinks he has the perfect way to defeat him. They go to Earth, meeting up with Mayris and Jaco, then being taken to a planet where intel suggests Moro will be next. Although by the time they already get there, it's already a bit too late. Turles can immediately tell. The Tree of Might's already been planted. It's not fully grown yet, but as they fly over the planet, he could see. Pretty clearly from space, there is an area that looks like a tree is about to grow. Which is pretty bad that the tree's that far along that it can be seen from space, even though it's not fully grown yet. And Turles says it might already be too late. The nutrients from the planet are going to be gone by the time they land. Goku, Vegeta, and Turles were dropped off, watching the tree grow in the distance. Goku can't believe these things are still out there. Same for Turles. The two of them remember how devastating it was for Earth. Vegeta never got to see for himself, but of course he heard the tales of it. And this is insane. Now, maybe at this point in the story, it's not too crazy in terms of the power. But to think, this was around the time that Vegeta went to Earth to fight Kakarot. Only a few weeks after, actually. Turles used this kind of power to grow that strong. He didn't realize this is what the tree was capable of. And he can only imagine how strong a fruit from it must be. They're pretty quickly intercepted by Moro's crew, but they're not too much of an issue. Until Moro himself arrives. Now, without a wish from the Dragon Balls, he never regained his youth. So, he still looks pretty old, but he's no longer frail and weak. He has Act Method. Honestly, at this point, he doesn't even need the Tree of Might. Now with his magic activated, he could just absorb planets as is, and lend that energy to other people. But he's curious as to how far the power of the Tree of Might's fruit goes. He feels like if he eats more, he'll gain a power far greater than anything that magic could give him. And once he arrives to face the three Saiyans, he's a bit confused, not knowing who they are. Well, one of them actually does look familiar, and he remembers. This guy was the reason that he found out about the Tree of Might in the first place. Now it's coming back to him. Turles, of the Crusher Corps. From what Moro remembered hearing, he went around planets first to get some Trees of Might. And that's when the rumors started spreading around the Galactic Patrol, leading Moro to find out more about this. He always had known about the Tree of Might, at least very vaguely. But he thanks Turles for ushering in this new era. Why is he here? To get the Tree of Might back for himself? Turles says he has no need for that. He's grown far stronger without it. Although, it would be good to ensure that there's no other Trees of Might being planted. Quickly in his hand, he makes a Might Pop, throwing it at Moro. This takes Moro by surprise, and at first, he actually does struggle with it. But then he sees how it works. Interesting. He counters it. Utilizing his magic, he's able to remove it from himself. This is quite the impressive technique. Against anyone else, you could see how terrifying it would be. In Turles and Jaco, he wouldn't have used this otherwise. But still, it did nothing to Moro. So, this guy has a lot of physical power, and his magic allows him to absorb energy, as well as manipulate it. Well, he powers down. He tells the other two it's their turn to go. This kind of surprises Moro. He's giving up like that? Well, not exactly. Turles just thinks this is the smarter idea. Goku and Vegeta then step up, each surrounded by the clan on the way here. Using Ultra Instinct, Goku could fight an opponent like this pretty effectively without having his energy drained. And as for Vegeta, it's going to be pretty hard for someone to drain his energy if that energy will destroy him. And while these two handle this, Turles is going to handle the tree. Moro tries to stop Turles, but Vegeta and Goku then stop him. Focus on them for the time being. Turles plows through the rest of Moro's crew, still pretty surprised seeing another Tree of Might. To think that it's still out there. He's already seen the tree act as the downfall for someone else once. Well, it wasn't really someone else, it was him. Just in a different timeline. And he knows Moro's strength here, it's going to be fleeting. No matter how much power he has from the Tree of Might, he won't truly ever get anywhere with it. Back at the fight between Moro, Vegeta, and Goku, he is having an incredibly tough time. He can't hit Goku, he dodges all of the attacks perfectly, with Goku attacking at a close range. But Moro also has to focus on dodging Vegeta's attacks, imbued with his destructive power. With the two of them fighting together, they are actually able to overwhelm Moro pretty quickly, as Turles focuses on taking out Moro's crew, and destroying the tree too. There's a powerful glow in the distance, as Turles overloads the tree with his own energy, incinerating it. Moro watches on as the tree crumbles. Not too concerned. He can still make it out of here, and he doesn't really need the tree. But the glow of the tree is obstructed as Vegeta stands in front of him, holding out a hand, smiling, seeing if Moro could absorb this blast, as he Hakkai's Moro, destroying the magician. Turles then flies back over to them. In his hand, he does hold a piece of the tree that remains, a seed that he could actually replant to grow another. But no, he's not going to do that. He gave up on that long ago. He crushes it in his hand, burning it up with his ki too. Moro is just another cautionary tale of what would happen if people planted more trees of might. And he wonders how Moro even got the seed for it in the first place. Maybe it would be good if Turles just destroyed the rest of them, if he could manage to find them somehow. And unsurprisingly, once Turles gets back, he sees that Moro's been defeated. Well, looks like their job here is done, with the patrol taking them back home. But as they arrive back, they then meet up with Piccolo. It's good that they're here. While they were gone, he fought a new foe, a foe that seemingly came from the Red Ribbon Army. He was able to infiltrate their base, and it seems like they're trying to rebuild a new version of Cell. And if that's the case, it would be really good to have the three of them helping. And of course they're not going to turn this down. Earth is at stake after all. But also, it's another fun battle where they could actually go all out. The fight with Moro was interesting, but for Vegeta and Goku it was a bit underwhelming. Especially for Turles too, who couldn't even fight against him. But hey, if they're facing off against another Cell, it's the perfect chance for the three of them to fight at full power all together. This way, they could truly see which of the three Saiyans is the strongest right now. Turles, Vegeta, or Goku. Piccolo thinks they need to take this a bit more seriously, but he's not too surprised with the reaction. Well, he's just glad to have the three of them here. If that version of Cell does end up awakening, at least it'll be pretty fun for Piccolo to watch the three Saiyans fight him. He's not too concerned. He knows they can handle it, and they know they can handle it. As the three Saiyans go off to stop Cell once more, each ready to prove that they're stronger than the other two, this is where we end off our story. What'd you guys think about this scenario? I had fun redoing it and changing Turles' character up from what it was in the original, but let me know what you think below. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel, and it shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, thanks for supporting the series all the way through, and I'll see you all in my next video.